Soul Purpose took a trip to its own backyard in Princeton, West Virginia at Heartstrings Boutique, where we met with owner Lauren Cruz, who talked about the miracle of her healing. Then we jumped on down to Cleveland, Tennessee and spoke to my BFF, Terry Cox, about her chaplaincy in Bradley County jails. All that and so much more right here on Soul Purpose.
My name is Lauren Cruz, and I own a boutique in Princeton, West Virginia. It is called Heartstrings Boutique, and that has a very special meaning in my life. I am a heart transplant recipient, and I have a wonderful story to tell about God's goodness. When I graduated high school, I decided that I wanted to attend a local university and pursue a teaching career. I still felt like there were things that I wanted to do in life. I was a natural entrepreneur and knew that in that teaching position, I would never have the money to be able to do something on my own. And as time progressed, I became ill at school one day. And through the process of many tests, I didn't get better. The doctor prescribed medication, and I just continued to be ill. So when we started investigating further, it was found that I was in congestive heart failure. This was at a time in my life where I was 22 years old, and hearing this diagnosis was very devastating for me. But it wasn't long after that I became very ill to where I was unable to work. My parents actually made the decision to take me to a university hospital, and we needed better answers. And upon arrival at that university hospital, I was almost immediately talked to about heart transplant. And at the time, we did not understand that I was that sick. But through many tests and going through a lot of difficult times, it was indeed that I needed a heart transplant or a supernatural miracle. And my family believed that both could take place, and that if we needed a heart transplant, that God could make that happen too. If He didn't heal me supernaturally, that He would definitely take care of me. And I kept the faith, and I actually was in line to be put on the list at this particular university hospital, and the Lord spoke to me, and He told me that that was not where I was supposed to be. But I called up my caseworker through my insurance company, and I told her, I said, I know that you're a person of faith, and I'm letting you know that God does not want me to be at this particular hospital any longer. And she said, well, I understand. She said, however, we just dropped our contract with the hospital that you say God has told you to go to. And so within a matter of about 48 hours, I told her, I said, well, we have to pursue it anyway. I said, because this is what God has told me, and there's a way. And within 48 hours, she had called a friend of hers that worked in billing at that hospital, and they actually set up an independent contract just for me. They ended up accepting the insurance, and I had an appointment within less than 2 weeks from that time when God told me that's where I was to be. And within 2 weeks of that appointment, I was put on their transplant list, and they prepared me. They told me, they said, this could take us 3 months, 6 months. We could end up waiting a long time. You may end up being hospitalized. But I always had in the back of my mind, I knew that God was going to take care of it. And so even though I was sick, I still praised God anyway. So it wasn't but 13 days. That was August 8th of 2014 that I was officially on the list. And on August 21st of that same month, 13 days later, when I was told that it should be 3, 6, 9 months, I'm on my way to the hospital to have my heart transplant. And so they sent me to a holding area, and the nurse came in and she said, well, honey, I just wanted to tell you, that lots of people, they go through these, what we call dry runs. But God had already spoken to my spirit that morning that this was my time. So she just looked at me and she's like, okay. Round about, 6, 7 o'clock that evening, my surgeon rounds the corner and he said, it's a go. And I said, I knew it was. He said, you did? I said, oh yeah. I said, I've been talking to God all day. And he was not of the Christian faith, but he respected what I had to say. And I said, matter of fact, sir, I've been praying for you. I said, and I want you to know that God has already anointed the instruments in the OR. He's already prepared the right team that's supposed to be with me. And he's even helped you make the right decision for me today. I said, you may not have known it, but God's been with you because he's in me. And he looked at me and he said, well, I really appreciate your prayer. He said, because I've been working about 24 hours to get you this heart. So the story goes, I was taken to surgery, and it was late that night it was early the next morning when I got out of surgery. And I can remember waking up in the recovery area, and I remember seeing my mom and dad there and other family members surrounding me, and I said, God is so good. I said, he is so faithful. On May 2nd of 2015, just about 7 months after transplant, I opened Heartstrings Boutique. And we had a very small store, but there was a lot of love in that store, and there was a lot of my students and their parents. I was patronized by those who had prayed for me for the transplant, and we met a lot of new people that way. Well, long about the time we opened that store, I found out that I had cancer, and basically I went back to the same hospital where I'd had my transplant. And the doctor said, I know you've just started a business, but probably want to go ahead and, wrap that up. So my mom and dad, being the people they are, they spoke up and they said, well, we want to tell you 2 things here. First thing is no matter how you believe, God's on our side, and he's on board in our situation. The second thing is we are Lauren's parents, and we will rally around her, and that business will stay open because it is her vision that God has given her, and we feel led to continue to keep it open. So as the months progressed, I did go into chemotherapy. It was very hard on my body, went into radiation. In that short amount of time, the store had opened on May 2nd. I started chemotherapy in June, and there were a lot of days I couldn't work, but my mom and dad were there. And in July, not even 2 months after we opened, I looked at them and I said, we're growing. We can't stay in this space anymore. So not only did my business not die, but it grew. And God expanded it throughout that entire time. I have been sick sitting here in the store. I have gone to radiation and come back to work. I don't give up because I have a Jesus that doesn't give up on me. And I know that he's working on my behalf all the time. This store is more than just about clothes, because God placed me here for a purpose, and he carries us forward. And that's the true meaning of Heartstrings Boutique. We want to be here as a ministry center, because when ladies walk in that door, most of the time they have no idea what they're walking into. But when they leave, they have something that they could have never paid for.
For more information on Soul Purpose, go to www.blankenshipministries.org. If you would like more information on being a sponsor of Soul Purpose, call 304-922-2620 or email soulpurposebroadcast@gmail.com. Subject line sponsor. If you would like more information on being a partner of Soul Purpose, call 304-922-2620 or email soulpurposebroadcast@gmail.com, subject line partner. Or you can write to Soul Purpose at P.O. Box 127, Bluefield, West Virginia 24701. And now back to Soul Purpose.
You've seen this beautiful face before. Terry Cox is no stranger to Soul Purpose. When we talked to her this time, she talked to us about the importance of prison ministry. Here it is, right here, right now. Today I'm here in Cleveland, Tennessee at my second home, my very best friend on the planet's house. She's an author, she's a nurse, and I just couldn't live without her. She's also a chaplain and just a lot of other things. It's Terry Cox. And we're just going to have a chat today. I'm so excited to be here with you on your back deck.
Thank you.
With your amazing view.
That's God's view. He just lets me borrow it.
Well, he is an amazing creator. And
Definitely.
I've had some of the most intimate moments with God on this deck, courtesy of you and God himself. And
It's my secret place as well.
There's a lot to be said about getting in your secret place and doing business.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a must. You can't live without it.
One of the things I love about you is that you're a seeker.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that I wanted to talk the most about is you recently invited me and my husband to come with you with jail ministry, Chain Breakers Jail Ministry. And you are the founder, you're the birther of that. Talk a little bit about that baby.
Well, that baby was birthed, I guess, maybe about 5 years ago. And of course, given wings to by our pastors, Pastor Jamie and Judy from Dwelling Place. They had to come alongside me and believe in the dream first to make it a reality. And then I had already started working at the Bradley County Jail as a nurse at that time, so it was kind of easy to step in at that point and start doing ministry as well. And I had worked in corrections for about 6 years prior to moving here, and so I was familiar with the corrections, you know, the way they do things and how things operate. And I guess I just, over the years, developed a love for inmates that I never, ever dreamed I would ever have.
The Bible, of course, tells us to go into the prisons, into the jails. It tells us to talk to that captive. It tells us to talk to him or her about Christ himself. But what is the importance of jail ministry?
For me, I think the importance for jail ministry is that, number one, I don't think the church realizes today how important jail ministry is. In my opinion, if you can go in and you can win over the inmates of your local jail, once they become released, then your community is going to change.
Wow.
Because they're not want to go back to the things that got them in there in the first place. And of course, everybody says everybody finds Jesus in jail. And of course, you are going to find that because, you know, people want to come to programs so they can get time off of their sentence and things like that. But if it's just for one, then we've done it for what we were supposed to do it for. We've done it for what God called us to do. We brought him back, someone that was lost.
Wow. That's phenomenal. It can change your community.
Yes, it can. I do believe so.
Oh, my goodness.
I believe that because, you know, you think about what you have, what you treasure most, you keep it locked up in a safety deposit box, in a vault, or whatever. And I'm going to tell you what, some of the most powerful men and women are behind those bars in your local jail. And there are more free people inside the jail than there are in our local churches, I hate to say, but it's the truth.
What would you say to someone who's watching today who has been incarcerated and is now back in the community?
I would say, first and foremost, you need to look for a local church that you can get hooked into. It's got to be somewhere that's non-compromising on the word. It's got, you know, praise and worship through the roof, and pastors who are going to hold you accountable, because you need people to hold you accountable, because if you don't have it, you just may very well wind up back in the same place you were before, and that's not what we want. That's not what we teach our inmates when we go in and do jail ministry. We teach them that they are something, they're beautiful, they're created by God, and they do have a purpose.
Well, and what would you say to somebody who has a loved one who is incarcerated?
Don't quit. Don't quit. Because the moment you quit might be the moment that you help them miss their miracle by quitting on them, because they're looking for people to believe in them. Sure, they've messed up. We've all messed up. We're human. You know, my thing is that they have just got caught doing something that maybe we've thought about. You know, I mean, how many times have you gotten angry at someone and said, oh, if I could just wring their neck? Well, they put actions to your thought and got caught. Same thing about, you know, maybe writing a bad check because you had to decide whether you wanted rent or food for your children. You and I have coverage with our bank, so our checks don't bounce. But they didn't have that choice, so they had to go to jail for choosing what their child needed the most. The only difference between you and I and an inmate is a door. And Jesus is the door, and we've got the key. And it's up to us to take it to him.
Wow. The only difference between us and an inmate is a door.
Exactly. When I walk into the jail, I know I'm going to get to leave.
Right.
They don't know when they're going to get to leave. Yeah, they've got a sentence or whatever, but they never know for sure when they're going to leave. But we've got to show them that we have the key to that door, that once they walk out, they don't have to walk back.
Oh my goodness gracious. Wow, that is powerful.
Yeah.
That is so powerful.
It's such needed ministry today. It really is.
I know that people in the jail feel forgotten.
They do.
They feel abandoned.
Yeah.
Is there a testimony? Is there something specific? I know you can't share specifics.
Right.
But is there something that you can share today? Is there something, a success story, a victory?
Well, there's several, you know, that we could share and everything, but I think of a girl right now who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And because she was at the wrong place at the wrong time, she got put in jail for extended amount of time.
Wow.
And she, you know, she told the Lord, she said, I don't believe in you anymore. I'm done.
Breaks my heart.
People have forgotten about me and I don't care. And I remember her distinctively saying, you know, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in the thing that you're saying. But one day she was in the cell and she was talking to an officer, and the officer said, if you'll just give God one more chance, you can watch him do a miracle in your life. And that night she told the Lord, she said, if you'll work out my sentence and get me out of here, I promise I'll never go a day without serving you. She went into the courtroom about 2 weeks later and was looking at a 24-year sentence. Do you know she was released the very next day?
What?
God showed himself strong to her.
Wow.
And she is serving the Lord now. She's back in her home church. She's singing on the praise team, getting ready to lead a Bible study. You know, that's just one of the many stories I could share.
Victory.
Yeah.
Absolute victory. Well, thank you so very much. Hold on to whatever it is that's going on in your life. Hold on just a second and see what God says about it. He is the final authority. The Bible is our final authority. And it doesn't matter what everybody else says until we know what He says on that topic.
That's right.
So thanks so much. Hang on and see what else Soul Purpose has for you next.
My name is Lauren Cruz. I'm the owner and operator at Heartstrings Boutique in Princeton, West Virginia. We specialize in women's clothing, jewelry, and accessories. We service all backgrounds, and we also offer sizes up to 5X. We hope to see you soon at Heartstrings. Remember, the best gifts are tied right here at Heartstrings Boutique.
Pastors Aaron and Christy Blankenship both have powerful testimonies of being saved, delivered, healed, commissioned, and called. They also have a unique passion and ability to present the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you would like to book them or host them at an event, please call 304-922-2620 or visit www.blankenshipministries.org.
We are so glad to be able to come before you and just to bring forth this word. And as I was thinking about what to talk to you today about, God told me to speak about shutting the door. And I didn't know how God wanted me to do this, but as He began to talk with me, He got me into Matthew chapter 9, 18 through 26. And it's talking about the young damsel that had died, but Jesus said that she was only asleep. I love that because there's so many of us has dreams, and this is the way that I'm referring it to, is so many of us have dreams that people are saying that has died, but they're only really sleeping. So what we have to do is just shut the door on those people who are around us that are saying that our dreams are dead. And if you actually look at it also, it can be found in Mark chapter 5, 39 through 43. But I want to go back on verse 24 in Matthew. It says, "And he said to them, Give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn." Now, this is what really that really gets me, is that whenever God says something, and if somebody doesn't really recognize or really get what God is saying, they want to laugh him out the door. But can I tell you that if God has told you something that it's going to live, you can guarantee you that it's going to live. Why make all this noise? Why mourn? Why weep? Why are you doing everything that you are doing? Quit mourning over something that God has told you that is going to live. Amen. The girl is not dead. She was just sleeping. And there's people that laughed him out of the house. Can I tell you that there's going to be people that's going to be laughing at you, trying to get you so discouraged? But the only thing that you have to do is shut the door on those who are telling you that nothing is going to live whenever God has told you that it's going to live. But here's the thing about this situation. The girl was 12 years old. And God got my attention on the number 12. 12 is found 187 places in the Word. Revelation alone has it 22 times. 12 is also considered a perfect number. God's power and authority, it also symbolizes completeness. And I love that. Now, in 2 Kings chapter 4, 32 through 35, it's talking about Elijah. It says, "And when Elijah came into the house, behold, the child was dead and laid upon his bed." This again is talking about a child that is dead, and people are mourning, and people are laughing, and just making all type of noise. And what Elijah was telling them, if you don't believe that this child can raise up from the dead, get out. Just get out the door. Again, if God has told you something that is going to happen, you can take it to the bank, as a lot of people would say in West Virginia. Take it to the bank because it will be done. My God. He shut out all of the company that might not have seen to glory in the power God had given him. You see, there's so many prophets that God has used to tell you that this is going to live and that's going to live. And people has been telling you that this man has no reason to tell you that because he doesn't know your past. But can I tell you that if God has used a prophet to come and tell you that it's going to live, take it to the bank. And here's the thing, your soul will bear witness with that man's prophecy that he has given you. And that's what I love. God has given us the capability to bear witness with one another if it is from God, and I love that. But here's the thing about it. Here's what happened. He says, "And he went up and lay upon the child and put his mouth upon his mouth, his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands, and stretched himself upon the child, and the flesh of the child waxed warm. Then he returned and walked in the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him, and the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes." You see, here's the thing about a lot of us Christians today, and I'm not putting it on one person, but I'm putting it as Christians as a whole. Sometimes whenever we go up and we start praying for something and we don't realize that it's coming to pass right then and there, we want to get, and it might seem warm, but we want it so hot. And God is trying to see how far we are really willing to go. But here's what I started thinking about with the way that Elijah did this: mouth to mouth, in God's name, breath to breath, eyes to eyes, to open them again to the light of life, hands to hands, to put strength to them. You see, sometimes to our dreams, to our visions, we've got to shut the door from the outside world, and we've got to lay mouth to mouth and eyes to eyes and hands to hands to our vision. But my last verse that I wanted to look at you or talk to you about is in Matthew 6:6. It says, "But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to the Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." Now, whenever I've preached this message before, I had a prayer shawl. Now, I love this because the prayer shawl, what people don't realize is that that can be symbolizing the door that you are shutting. So whenever we wear a prayer shawl, we wear it around our shoulders or up around our head and everything else. God is telling us to shut the door. In other words, grab that prayer cloth or that prayer shawl and completely put it over your head and just shut up, just wrap up in it and say, "God, you speak to me today. You tell me exactly what you want me to hear. And God, if it's for me to go somewhere, I will do it." And see, here's another thing that we have to do. Look at what's in your hand sometimes is your cell phone or your iPad or anything else. We have got to learn how to shut the door off of that right there also and be able to get within the Word. And I know that your Bible and stuff can be on that also, but there's times that we can actually pray and stuff, but we're too busy playing games or chatting or doing whatever. Shut the door on that. And lastly, seclusion, the state of being private and away from other people. Divine vision and answered promises. You see, whenever we have that divine vision and we start praying, we will have that answered promise through God. Amen. I'm so glad that you actually tuned in with us today. I hope that you got something out of this message of shut the door. Remember, you have to shut the door and start praying to see God's vision work whenever everybody else says that it's not happening. Thank you for watching today, where we are always walking in our sole purpose.